Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Library. Today we will be continuing talking about the novellas featured in 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King. Now the novellas featured in here are fantastic. 3 of them I just think are just some of the best things ever written. The one at the end, not so much. Now I've already reviewed the one at the front, Langoliers, a science fiction horror story, which is just super cool, one of my favorites. The next one along is the one I'll be reviewing right now, Secret Window, Secret Garden. Last week I reviewed The Library Policeman. Sorry about the order. I do these reviews as I feel like it. Sorry about the confusion. Today's story, Secret Window, Secret Garden. Now this isn't a horror novel. This is a thriller. It's a Stephen King thriller, so it's also supernatural, but I wouldn't call it a horror story. Now, Secret Window, Secret Garden follows the story of a novelist named Mort Rainey. Mort Rainey isn't having a good time. He is going through a divorce. His wife Amy has recently had an affair, and he is living in a lakeside holiday home that him and his wife bought, but she is actually living back in their old home with her new man. Well, I don't think he's living there, but he's popping in, and they're still quite a hot item, much to Mort's chagrin. Now, one day, Mort is sleeping on the couch. He's sleeping his life away pretty much every single day, and there's a knock on the door. And as he gets up with bleary eyes, he opens the door, and there's a man standing there. And a man pointing his finger right in Mort's face. And he says, "You stole my story. Yes, you did. You stole my story, and something has to be done about it. What's right is right, and what's fair is fair." So what do you say? Now, Mort Rainey has no idea what this guy's talking about. Initially, he thinks, well, it's just some angry fan. Just talking crap, thinking that I stole something that he wrote. Just a looper of the crazy fan side of things. So they have a little argument, and he shuts the door. Then he goes back to bed, because like I said, that's what Mort does these days. He just sleeps and sleeps and sleeps his life away. Now, I was going to do a quick review on this, like just one of my 4-minuters. Then, rereading this, I realized there's a bit more to this. It doesn't really deserve a quick just chat about. I was just going to compare book to movie, but I'm going to tell you a bit about the story and just, I don't know, what I think about it. So, like I said, so this guy gets woken up by this other guy who says he stole his story. Now, Mort, our main protagonist here, this writer hasn't written anything worth reading for months. His mind is on his divorce. He's all over the place. Once a week, he'll write a sentence and just delete it, and then he'll go sleep. He lives in this tiny little lakeside town. He has some guy that he's friends with named Tom who comes and fixes things. A maid who comes and does his shopping. Everything is very, very depressing. And then this guy rocks up. So eventually he goes out the front, and this guy has left the manuscript that he claims Mort stole this story. So he picks it up and he looks at the front cover. Now it says, Secret Window, Secret Garden by John Shooter. The name's not familiar. The title isn't familiar. He's like, okay, whatever. Goes into the kitchen, throws it in the bin. Goes to sleep or goes upstairs to do some terrible writing, whatever. When he comes back down, it's sitting on his kitchen table because the maid has fished it out of the bin, thinking that he shouldn't have thrown it away, like, oh, it's probably good. I saved your story for you, Mr. Rainey. And he's a bit annoyed about that because he just binned it. But he finds himself reading it. And then, oh my God, his eyes open wide because this story is not just similar, but it is the same story. A story that he wrote years ago called Sowing Season. Featured in a short story collection he wrote called Everybody Drops the Dime. There you go. And it's not word for word. The name of the character in the story is different, but the story's the same. It's about a guy whose wife has a garden, a secret garden, and he finds out she's cheating, and so he murders her with a shovel and buries her underneath her vegetables in this secret garden. That's the story. Sowing Season, he wrote it. John Shooter's version is called Secret Window, Secret Garden. And even as he's reading it, he likes John Shooter's version a bit better. And then he's thinking, wow, how did this guy rip me off? Like, well, I mean, it's obvious. He just rewrote the story in his own way. But this guy, when he was like, you stole my story, he was so adamant about it. He was so angry that he couldn't believe Mort came all the way down to Mississippi and stole my story. That's what he says anyway. This guy with this big round hat, and looks like something straight out of a William Faulkner novel, seems fictional himself, this guy, yet there he is. And so I always do this, I always go way too far into plot. So John Shooter, this guy that's accusing Mort, goes very far, kills his dog, does some stuff. I'm talking homicide, arson, does some really intense stuff, and Mort starts questioning his own sanity, starts questioning what he wrote, what he didn't write, starts questioning what's real and what isn't. And in this story, we are just living inside Mort's head. Now, okay, I'm going to back off from plot here a bit and just talk about the book. Now, Stephen King... so in this book, just before every novella, there's a note, like a note about the story. Now, the note about this story is pretty much about the title, Secret Window, Secret Garden. Now, Stephen King apparently was up in his attic, moving some furniture around, and he looked through this window. And as he looked through this window, he could see his wife's, Tabitha's, garden. And the sun was shining on it, and she had some pot plants out there, and he knew the garden existed, but he'd just never seen it from that angle before, because he'd never seen through that window before. So, like, it was a secret window looking down on a secret garden. And to him, it was a perfect metaphor of what a writer actually does. A writer sits down and physically writes a story. But imaginatively, he's creating this secret world of people. So it's like a secret window looking down on a secret garden. Perfect. So he starts writing the story. But then, of course, just like I said last week with his library policeman story, what happens when the glass breaks and that person is still stuck in the seat trying to create this universe? Of course, we get our eyes cut, don't we? So that's what this story's about. So it's a study on this guy's mind. Now, there is a movie. Now, the movie came out years later, years later, and it was directed by David Koepp. Now, I love David Koepp. David Koepp directed Stir of Echoes, wrote and directed Stir of Echoes, actually, with Kevin Bacon, which was based on a Richard Matheson story. He wrote the screenplay for the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds. Sorry, the Spielberg version of War of the Worlds. And I think the screenplay is fantastic. A lot of people don't like his Indiana Jones that he wrote. David Koepp wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I happen to not think it's that bad. Excuse me. But yeah, the movie version of Secret Window, Secret Garden is just called Secret Window. Now, when David Koepp and his producers were talking about it, they were like, we don't want to put Secret Garden in there. Everybody remembers the old classic, I won't say children's story, but just classic story, Secret Garden. Or The Secret Garden, whatever it is. I read it. I think I read it when I was like 11. Zoom. And I've seen the movie, whatever. But Secret Window, Secret Garden. The metaphor is there. But, David Koepp and that, they probably thought, Hollywood, we'll just call it Secret Window. Still works by, based on the content of this story. So, Johnny Depp. Now, Johnny Depp plays Mort Rainey in the movie version. He plays a nutter in this. He's over the top. He's very funny. His acting is stellar. Now, when I read the book, I don't picture Johnny Depp. I have my own picture of Mort Rainey in my head. But when I watch Secret Window, directed by David Koepp, I delight in Johnny Depp as Mort Rainey. He brings that character to life. He embodies the character, the depression, the anger, the complete confusion. He really, really does. I think he's fantastic as Mort Rainey. Just, they're two separate things, movie and book, but I love them both. Now, John Shooter is played by John Turturro, and he is just fantastic. Now, when I read the book, I picture John Turturro as John Shooter. Like, there's just no way you can get that out of your head. He's just fantastic. And we've got Maria Bello as Mort's cheating wife, who, listen, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. So she's fine as a cheating wife because she's just never done anything to impress me. And yeah, she's great as this evil woman that's done his head in and caused all of this to happen. Sorry, maybe she didn't. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Maria Bello, and I'm not a big fan of the character Amy in the book. She's a big meanie, and she's horrible, and whatever. But Ted, okay, Ted is the guy who Amy has had an affair with against Mort. And in the movie, he's played by the honorary Timothy Hutton, Sir Timothy Hutton. He is so good, from Stephen King's The Dark Half. Timothy Hutton rules. I can't stress that enough. Timothy Hutton for world leader. He's just fantastic. And he's just got this minor role as the guy that's shagging Mort Rainey's missus. He does it fantastic. And Johnny Depp and their little arguments are just hilarious, and they're both a delight. So, I've talked about book, I've talked about movie. One of the good things is Depp is playing a bizarre character, but it's not as bizarre as some of his other characters, which kind of do my head in. Now, that's not to say that, Johnny Depp has just recently started playing crazy characters. You know, when I was a child, he was Edward Scissorhands. You know what I mean? That's about as nutty as you can get. I don't think he's ever been crazier than that, even though he's tried to. And that movie, he's a treasure in that. So Secret Window, Secret Garden. The book ends different than the movie. I won't give it away spoiler-wise, but there's a twist in both. But it's like in the book, it has the twist, and then it almost takes the twist back, as if, no, it's not all in his head. There was supernatural stuff going on here. Whereas in the movie, it's like, no, it's all in his head. There is an interesting thing in the movie. Right at the very start of the movie, the very start of Secret Window, the camera is zooming in on Johnny Depp on the couch, but before it does, it goes through the mirror and then zooms in on him, and it never comes out of the mirror. Do you know what I mean? So it's like everything that happened in that movie is on the other side of the glass. So I know David Koepp read that book and understood Stephen King's idea for one side of the looking through the glass, looking through the window. That was the whole point. So was it even happening, or is it all in Mort's head? But, of course, Stephen King, of course it's happening. It's supernatural. This is a supernatural book. Of course it is. So that's the difference, and I think it's wicked. Both versions are fantastic. And also, it's got a fantastic quote. I know I can do it, Todd Downey said, helping himself to another ear of corn from the steaming bowl. I know that in time, every bit of her will be gone, and her death will be a mystery, even to me. Oh, isn't that poetry? That's poetry as far as I'm concerned. So this was more of a rant than my normal ones, because this is like maybe the 4th time I've tried to do this review, and I've scrapped them all because I just wasn't happy with them. And rereading this, I just had different feelings about it. Different feelings about it. I enjoyed it just as much, if not more, and of course I rewatched the movie. And I liked both mediums even more than I did the last time I read them. So once again, definitely a recommendation for Secret Window, Secret Garden, and go out and watch the movie Secret Window starring Johnny Depp and directed by David Koepp. Fantastic. You will enjoy yourself. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to remind you that next week I'm going to review my least favourite story in the book, which, it's not like I have to, but I've done the first 3, so I might as well do the last one. So I'm going to do The Sundog, which is a science fiction story taking place in our favourite town of Castle Rock. We have some new characters to meet, we have some old characters to meet, but we'll get there. It deserves a review so that I can just close the book, so to speak, on 4 past midnight. So please tune in next week. Don't forget to subscribe to Liam's Library and hit the little bell if you want notifications, because I'm always uploading content. If you want me to review something, please leave it in the comments section below. Take care of one another and read some really good books. Bye-bye.